If you could change any choices you have ever made, would you? You can always make another choice and change the course of your success. Everyone has the potency to make inspired choices. Get ready to listen, share, and experience the creativity that is you. Now, here is the host of Inspired Choices radio show, Christine McIver.
That is right. It is Christine McIver. Welcome, everyone, to my show. Tonight, we're going to be talking about vulnerability in business and how it can be a game changer. So I am Christine McIver. I am your host of the Inspired Choices show. We are from our home studio is Inspired Choices Network. I would love to know where you are listening from or you are watching from. It's all about choice here at Inspired Choices Network. We are actually live streaming right now on 55 audio platforms, and we are live streaming on inspiredchoicesnetwork.tv and on Facebook and in YouTube. And then all of this content, like every other show and every other host show, will be going out to 300 plus platforms. So if you're watching live, if you would like to join us and actually interact with the show, ask questions live, please come on over to inspiredchoicesnetwork.com/chat room, or wherever you're listening or watching from. Please put a comment live or hashtag live or hashtag replay and put your comments there. I will be looking at them after the show or at any time. When you are putting your comments, we are receiving them, and we would love to interact and answer your questions. So I am the CEO of the Inspired Choices Network. I love this platform. I love what all of the hosts and all of the team members of the network do in creating together. It is very exciting to see the amazing content that's coming out. Today is October the 11th, 2023. And it's been a pretty, I would say, robust day of content. There is a very robust energy in the world, a lot of intensities, a lot of strong points of view. There is, like always, there is some very interesting energies going on with people all around the world. This is a particularly intense day in the world, and our shows reflect that. This is something that I love about the shows. The hosts don't know what each other is going to be putting out there, and yet the energies that we follow deliver intensity and really information that's required, information that's so incredibly valuable to what is happening in the world in real time. So it's such a pleasure to be the CEO of the network and to watch all of the amazing creations coming forward. I can't even believe how amazing it is and how blessed we are to have all of this fabulous content. So that's what I do. That's one of my jobs. I'm also a business optimization expert, and I work to take the crazy out of your business to bring ease and pleasure in. I love business. It's, to me, I feel like 90% of the time, honestly, I feel like I get to play. I'm playing when I'm in business. Yes, there are days that are very intense. And sometimes I want to run away, but who doesn't want to run away some days, right? But when I'm working with other entrepreneurs, with other business owners, and I get to show them how to make things easier for them, how to have more pleasure in their business, that to me is absolute joy. There's a few things in life that I really get a ton of joy from. One is baking pies. And if you know me, this was our Thanksgiving weekend, and I made a lot of pies. There, if anybody's hungry, come on over. There's still pies. That's one of them. And working with business owners is another thing that I get so much pleasure out of. And so if you're someone that's not having pleasure in your business, if you're struggling, please reach out to me. Let's talk. It doesn't need to be that way. And let's talk about what else is possible to really bring more ease and more pleasure and more rewards to you in business, because being a business owner can be a tough job. It can be very intense, and it doesn't have to be, and you don't have to be doing it alone. And here, this is what I love to do, is work with people to really support them to create more ease in their world. So tonight we are talking about Vulnerability in business is a game changer. So, to avoid vulnerability within yourself is to miss out on the truth of who you are. When we take the brave step forward, open ourselves up completely, we learn powerful truths about what stops us, what makes us happy, and where we need to heal. All of those items apply to our business on a massive scale as well. Have you ever thought about that? You are your business, and the success or failure of your business begins here with you. So, we're going to share some essential aspects of being vulnerable tonight and how doing so will uncover massive leaps forward in your business. Have you ever actually thought about business and vulnerability, that they go together? Is that something that you've ever imagined or you've ever dove into with yourself or with your business? I'd love to know your comments. Um, you know, let's talk about vulnerability first. I looked up the online etymology definition. There's actually not a definition for vulnerability, only for the word vulnerable, which came out in 1767 as a noun, and in the 1600s as an adjective. And the definition just refers to wound, to hurt, wounding, injury, to maim, to pluck, and then it refers to weakness. So I find that very interesting that the original definition is really about weakness for vulnerability, and there's so much more to that. And I know that that is still the energy of it. When people hear the word vulnerability, they immediately think, oh my God, I'm going to show my scars. I'm going to show my weakness. And what I would really love, this would light me up tonight, if you could suspend that response within you, if you could suspend the idea of being vulnerable as being weak, it would be amazing. And we could explore what could possibly be instead of that for you and for your business. Because what I know is, as we step into changing that and really looking at vulnerability from the perspective of curiosity and uncovering what we're not aware of, that space of being vulnerable and acknowledging, that's where we can really gain some huge insight and start to cultivate a different experience, certainly with the word vulnerability, but also with the experience of being vulnerable. Yes, someone says in the chat room, Makayla says, I show up as me, so I guess that's vulnerable, but I'm kind of feisty with it. So I love that. What if showing up as you is being vulnerable? That is a very great point. The fact of the matter is that most people are putting on a mask. They're putting on, we put on makeup, we put on certain clothes, we put on an air of the way that we want to be perceived. And yet we use that to create a divide between the truth of who we are and the truth of what is really going on within ourselves, and what we want the world to see. What if you started to create your experience of yourself and within your business just between you, and you allowed yourself to suspend, to put to the side what other people were perceiving about you in business? What if you allowed yourself the freedom to dive into who you are and the places and spaces that you've not been willing to look at? That's what I really want you to look at tonight. That's where I really want to go. And I want to show you how being vulnerable in that way can be so incredibly powerful in business. So here's the thing about Here is the thing about being vulnerable. When you're willing, and you have to be willing, not just saying, okay, fine, I'll be vulnerable. No, there has to be the energy of willingness. I am willing to be vulnerable. When you are willing to be vulnerable and you start to drop your barriers to yourself about what is going on within you, you can begin to discover the places, like I said in the show description, the places where you need to heal, the places that you've not been willing to acknowledge. So in the energy of the show, I'm going to share some vulnerable things with you tonight. And what I know is that as I share the places and spaces where normally people would not, I know that someone out there will receive a blessing from it. I just know that that occurs. I know that that occurs on every show that I ever hear somebody sharing their story, and sharing their story from the space of really allowing it to contribute to others, not from the space of proving. So that's not what this is at all. This is really from the space of what I'm going to share with you. I want to share it from my heart so that you too can see, you can get on the other side of it. So one of the big things that oftentimes business owners, and I'm sure that you've experienced this yourself, that they struggle with is acknowledging when business is not going well. We don't want to buy into that. We don't want to buy into that we're not doing well. There's that premise out there of, oh, the law of attraction, don't say it. If you don't say it, then it's not going to happen. But we know that's not true, because if you have the energy of worry and fear and lack, whether you say the words or not, you have the energy, you're connected to that. It's kind of like having something wrapped around you, but pretending that you don't need that thing wrapped around you. All right. As long as that energy is part of who you are, that is actually what is you are attracting, what you are creating with. And that's a big thing in business, is you are such a creator in your business. Every single person is. And when I say this, I'm not just saying this from the entrepreneur creator. I believe everybody is in their own business. If you are employed by someone else, you still have that energy around you. I was in corporate for many, many years, and I was particularly in HR. And when we would interview people, I mean, I could tell from someone's resume, I could certainly tell when I met them, whether they had the energy of fear and worry and lack wrapped around them. Right. And so it's so important for you to understand that you're in your own business, no matter what you are doing, and the energy that you have, the truth of what is there, is what is one of the biggest things that's attracting for you. So when you can begin to be vulnerable and begin to see that that is actually some of the space that is driving what's going on in your business, that's when you step into the power seat and you can begin to change it. So before we dive in, we're going to take a quick break. We got to pay some bills. And when we get back, that's exactly where we're going to start. We're going to start to talk about what happens and what happened for me in a very vulnerable place and how it began to change everything. So you are listening to the Inspired Choices Show. I'm your host, Christine McIver, here on the Inspired Choices Network. Stick around. We'll be right back after this break.
Many of us make choices based on our past experiences or based on what others believe. What would our lives be like if we made our choices based on what we desire for our futures? When you join the Inspired Choices Show with business optimization expert Christine McIver, you'll be provoked to look at what is true and what you know, but may not choose, that requires your attention. Christine does not hold back. She brings all her expertise to every show. Are you ready to create and live the life you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Inspired Choices Show with business optimization expert Christine McIver. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine@inspiredchoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. Yes, I am Christine McIver. I am the host of the Inspired Choices Show on the Inspired Choices Network. So today we're talking about vulnerability. And in our first segment, I talked about most people are putting a mask on and using that to create a divide of the truth of who they are and what is really going on with themselves. And when you're willing to be vulnerable and start to drop your barriers to yourself, you can begin to discover the places where you need to heal. And you know what I discovered personally with myself and with clients is there are challenging times that are such a gift. It's these challenging times, which we are in right now, but I'm talking specifically with business. When you are in a challenging time in your business, we just want it to end. We just want to run away. We just want it to change. I mean, I have been there, clients have been there. I know people that are there right now, and I totally get it. And what's really cool is today, for me, I have a different awareness about it than I did in the past. And there's no longer a reaction from me when things are challenging. And that's a big place. That's a big step to get to. And I really hope that this show contributes to you to be able to, instead of react, begin to ask more questions, to begin to do some deeper diving and be able to go into a space of responding to the change. So the really great thing that occurs when you have challenging times is it gives you the opportunity to learn and grow. We don't grow in the easy days. We only grow in the challenging days. What would your world be like? What would your business be like if you allowed the challenges to come as gifts? How would that change things for you? I know when I was a young entrepreneur, when I was starting out, I felt like I was continuously holding my breath. I felt like I was just waiting to try to fix something again and again and again so that I could survive, right? So what is all of that? All of that energy is lack energy. That's a belief where I've got an expectation that things aren't going to go well. And in order for me to survive, I have to be able to respond very, very quickly. And that when you are in that energy, when I was in that energy, what was occurring was more opportunities of challenges. They just kept coming and coming and coming. It was like I had to keep getting the pressure put on me and the pressure put on me so that I would make a different choice and I would finally acknowledge that. So how many of you have had a challenging time at one point or another in your business or in your career that had you really have to face the truth, really had you look in the mirror of what you were choosing and it really forced you to take a different path, to take a different point of view, to really challenge your belief systems? How many of you have been there and survived, you got on the other side of it and really started to change things for the better for you. Now, I want you to remember something, that this business came to you so it could come through you. And this business is here to support you. The universe completely has your back. The divine completely has your back and is here to bring you and your brilliance to the world, to contribute to the world, to make the world a greater place. You didn't come here to just learn lessons and grow. You came here to be the change. But you can't be the change until you learn to change, right? We all need to go through those vessels of change so we can begin to blossom like the butterfly. And yeah, it can be really, really tough. And I find that it's often really, really tough when we keep fighting against it. Now, I absolutely know that you as a business owner are never going to learn more about yourself than when you go into business. It is one of the most come to Jesus times in your life, is when you go into your own business. You don't know who you are or who you're going to be in business until you are in your own business. You can take all of the business courses, you can go to all the seminars, you can read all the books. You absolutely can, and please do. But until you get into business and you begin to apply the knowledge and begin to move through the challenges in your business, you're not going to know who you are. And you're not going to know what is actually the belief systems that are deeply buried within you, or the places and spaces that need your attention and healing. We have Karen in the house that says, I think I'm at that spot now in the stronger than ever before. Fantastic. And as soon as you think you know who you are, it will change again. Well, that's not wrong. And you will go forward with more knowledge and more strength. And Michaela says, more times than I would like, I think pivot is my middle name. Well, if you came here to create great things and to contribute greatly, do you think you're going to have little changes, or do you think you're going to have big changes? You see, what I know, and while it doesn't feel fair, is those people that came here to make a big, big change in the world, they're going to be challenged largely. They're going to be challenged largely because the universe really requires you to step up and really requires you to get moving. So what if you began to look at the challenges and the vulnerability from the space of opportunity? That this is an opportunity because you are so required, and your intelligence, your contribution with what you create in the world is so required. I want to invite you to look at that. I want you to invite you to maybe write that down and say, is this a problem, or is this a challenge with an opportunity? It's a very different way to look at things. And it's a place where you can just take that breath. You just take that breath when something comes up and you begin to ask another question. So the vulnerable space that I want to share with you right now. It was about, 2017, I would believe. So I'd been in my own business since 2008. I'd been going along, right? 9 years. That's pretty amazing, right? Everybody says, you get past this certain point in your business. It had always been for me a challenge, because while I made good money in the corporate world, my belief system about myself independently, I still questioned. I especially questioned when I started a new profession, i.e., when I started to coach people. I became a professionally trained life coach. And when I started to coach people, I had this mindset that I was kind of brand new at it. When today I know I wasn't. I see that differently today, because I had been doing aspects of that in the corporate world, but I didn't connect that out of the gate when I started my business. And so it was always felt like I I didn't value myself as much as I should have, and I didn't value as much as what I brought to my clients as I should have. So I was underpricing myself again and again. And most people are. I'll tell you that right now. Most people are underpricing themselves, especially when they're coming from a place of integrity. So I would be in a continuous space of like, what else, which I see it differently today, not from a space of lack, but from a space of fun and creativity. You know, I feel like I'm the research and development team all the time because I love that space of creating. But I was in that space of not enough. There was not enough coming in, and at one point, I I had I had built a home. I had a mortgage, and it was a couple of years later that things changed for me and I started my business. Well, I was making money. There was other money coming in from other ways, and the business was not sustaining all of the home expenses that I needed for my mortgage and so on. So when that mortgage was up, I knew that the banks would not accept my self-employment and the amount of money that I was bringing in. So I sold the home. I had some cash, and that helped to sustain me for a little while longer. And then I came to a space because the business was not growing. I had made some choices that didn't turn out well, and I was in the squeeze spot. You know, everything started to get squeezed. And I actually ended up moving in with a relative of mine, and I lived in a 10 by 10 room. And I thought, oh my God, I only just a few years ago built my own home and I was doing really great, making six figures. And now I have nothing. I have nothing. And it was a very sobering time in my life. And I still continued forward with my business. I did get to a space, and I wonder how many of you have ever been at this space, where I was willing to say, okay, if I need to go get a part-time job at, Tim Hortons or McDonald's, I will do that. I will do that because I'm going to do whatever it takes to be able to still pay for my bills. Now, as this continued along, I was open to all sorts of different opportunities. And I think that had I not been in that squeeze space, I would have maybe passed by this opportunity that came to me. When oftentimes when we have settled on a career, we've invested in a career, we've invested in our business, and we've decided this is what I do and this is how I do it, we actually put blinders on to opportunities. And we're not in that energy of, okay, what else? Now, there was an energy of desperation for sure, because I wanted to have my own home again. I wanted to be able to be independent again. But this opportunity came my way. Now, again, I was still operating from lack, and this opportunity was to produce shows. So where I had my own radio show and podcast, that organization asked if I would like to produce. And I was welcome to bring my own hosts onto that platform. Well, I got to tell you, I struggled internally at first because I thought, what? That's not what I do. That's not who I am. I'm an HR professional. I'm a professional life coach. This is what I do. That's not who I am. What will people think? Right? Lots of that stuff came through, and oh, did I struggle. And that's where I had to start being a little vulnerable. This is where the vulnerability for me started to open up, and I started to look at this. But I was in the squeeze space, right? I was in the squeeze space, and I had to face this. I had to face this if I was going to change it. Now, a lot of people said, why don't you just go back into corporate? And there was something very strongly within me that said, no, that is not what I'm supposed to be doing. It wasn't from fear. It wasn't from anything else. I knew that I could, and I knew that I could make money, and I did well in that. It wasn't that. There was something strongly inside of me that said, no, don't do this. So I said yes to producing, and I had no understanding of what that would look like. I had no idea whether it was going to be a viable financial source for me. I was trying to do other things as well as I was trying to get back on my feet. And this opportunity was there. So I started to use it, and I started to learn from it. Now, initially I was charging very little, because again, when you're in that vulnerable place of feeling that lack energy, you oftentimes are not really asking for or seeing your value, and therefore asking for that amount equivalent from the people that are your clients or your customers. So when I got going on this and I started to see exactly what was involved, and I started to change my point of view about my value, so I started to get very vulnerable with myself, and I started to work with a coach. And together we started to discover that my self-worth was the thing that was pulling me down financially, because I didn't believe in who I was. Now, did I have skills? Did I know I had education? Yes, I knew that, but I wasn't seeing my own connection to how I valued myself. And it was in this space of the squeeze where I had to see that. I was being forced. It was like the universe was like, come on, Christine, you need to see this. You need to change this. This is invaluable information for you to be able to shift, and therefore to support others to shift as well. So that is where I began to do that. That is from the space of, and that was in 2014 that I started to produce. And that's when things started to slowly change. Now, we're up to our second break. When we come back, I'm going to continue this story. I would love for you to look at, while we're on break, I'd love for you to look at the spaces where you were in the squeeze and you started to learn more about yourself in the squeeze. It's like, shine a light on that. That's valuable information about yourself. And that's where we get to start to dive into being vulnerable and looking at that as a tool for us to be able to grow. All right, so you are listening to the Inspired Choices Show. I'm Christine McIver on the Inspired Choices Network. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Stick around.
Many of us make choices based on our past experiences or based on what others believe. What would our lives be like if we made our choices based on what we desire for our futures? When you join the Inspired Choices Show with business optimization expert Christine McIver, you'll be provoked to look at what is true and what you know, but may not choose, that requires your attention. Christine does not hold back. She brings all her expertise to every show. Are you ready to create and live the life you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Inspired Choices Show with business optimization expert Christine McIver. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine@InspiredChoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
Hey, my friends, welcome back. If you are joining us live, thank you so much for being in the chat room. I always enjoy the conversations that are going on and the ahas that come. And you know what? When you participate in someone's show, do you know that you add your energy to the awarenesses that that individual receives? Because If you are like me and many of the hosts here on the network, I strongly encourage them to allow themselves to follow the energy in the show. Make a few bullet points, but don't script the entire thing. Allow the energy that wants to come through you to contribute to the show. And when you participate, you're also contributing as well. So thank you very, very much. I definitely appreciate it a great deal. Okay, so in our last segment, I started to go into talking about the squeeze and how the squeeze in your life, in your business life, can really be such a big place to grow and expand, and how it's such a big gift. And it's the challenging times that we grow the opportunity to learn and grow, that when you are willing to receive these challenging times in a different way, they're not the end of the world. And I absolutely know that there are times when it feels like that. And I would ask you to please, if you're feeling like that, reach out to me. Let's just have a conversation. You know, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, you and I'll just chat. There's no pressure to work with me, nothing, but I certainly don't want anybody to suffer that feeling that you're at the end of the road. Because I've been there. I really have been there and felt like that's it. Like, why am I even here? And I'll tell you why you're here, because you've got something brilliant to contribute. And when you're in that space of feeling like you don't, that it doesn't matter, that you don't matter, that you're not going to be able to get out of this, that's not true at all. And we all need support. You came to a planet with 7+ billion people. You're not here because you're to do it alone. You're here to create together with many, many other people. So allow yourself to receive, especially when you're in the vulnerable place. Okay, so let me swing back to pick up where I left off with the story. So I had started to produce with this other organization, and I was still working on the different revenue streams, coaching. I was doing some facilitation. I was teaching a program, and I was doing a lot of different things. And I continued to do and learn about producing, and I started to speak to different people and started to develop what is today in me being a producer and to support other people to bring their voices to the world. So as I started to do that, I started to learn about, some new capacities that I had. And I started to expand on my capacities, and I was growing myself again and again. Well, a few years later, I was now in my own home, and things were going along pretty good. And I was adding different aspects to my business. Now, lo and behold, things started to get into things were growing from that point. From 2014, they started to grow. And then around 2017, 2018, things started to contract. There were financial struggles, and there was doubt coming in. It was really swamping me with a great deal of doubt about what was happening and what I was able to do, and was I going to be able to pull through this? And what I discovered is that there was more lack energy that I was vibrating with, that I was believing into, that was still within me, that kind of needed another round of attention. So it was interesting. I got audited by the government. I had an accountant who just was not doing what he needed to be doing. The government swooped in. He was not going to help me. I was completely floundering all over the place, trying to figure out how to communicate with these people, give them what they want, and come out with, with not having to pay them thousands of dollars. Well, unfortunately, that was not the case. I did end up paying over $5,000 to the government through this audit. I certainly did not have $1,000 to give them, let alone $5,000. And this happened again and again. And then what occurred is I had to keep going, because it was like, if I stopped, what was going to happen then, right? What was going to happen if I stopped and I didn't keep trying to make more money? Things were going to get worse and worse and worse. One second. So what happened is I continued to move forward, and it was, again, it felt like that squeeze was happening, and hang on one second. I apologize for that. So the squeeze was happening a great deal. And what really started to occur was I was being forced into really looking at, okay, Christine, what's going on here? You had so much fear when this came up about the government. So I started to get very vulnerable with someone that I didn't really know, but I instantly felt a trust to start to talk to them about where things were at financially. And this individual today is my accountant. She's fantastic. And she really helped me to look at where I need to be putting my energy and where she could be putting her energy. Because like many of us, I started to pull things closer and started to do them myself. Whereas when you are in a space of needing to grow, you need to be giving things to other people to support you to be able to grow, because we're only one person. We can't do everything ourselves, right? So that started to shift. And yet, as the business continued and continued, there was still more signs that I still had this lack belief, and I was trying to keep things going. I was paying for things, I was adding things to the business, I was doing a great deal of things, but the financial piece was not actually coming through enough to be able to sustain things. And I had to get to a place, and I do believe that I had to get to this place of near bankruptcy before I was so squeezed that I was forced to look at things very, very deeply. And so I had a very dear friend who has no judgment at all, worked with me, and we spent one night many, many hours talking, and there was a lot of tears on my part, because sometimes when we are, when we're looking from a space of vulnerability, we feel like there's a wound there and there's tears, and our belief in ourselves and our judgment of ourselves can force a lot of these tears. And yet they're not going to stop you unless you stop, right? Tears don't mean anything except that there's an emotion that's trying to be expressed. So we sat for hours and hours and we talked about it, and we really got to a space of, again, a deeper space of my belief about myself and my belief about what it meant that things were financially that I was really struggling financially. What did it mean? I attached my personal value to that, to the point of I would do anything to not let other people know that I was struggling and that I was not doing well. I was going to do anything, to the point of turning myself inside out and backwards. We do this. We get ourselves into such we get ourselves so worked up into such a place that we can become sick. We can become physically sick. We can become mentally and emotionally sick. And I was very much at that space. And this very dear friend, she really worked with me, and she showed me what was the truth about finances in the world, what was the truth about, banks and credit card companies, and how each and every one of us, it doesn't mean that we are less valuable, that we are less lovable. It does not mean that we're out here trying to rip people off, that we're out here trying to steal. That's not what it means at all. And it doesn't mean that, we are not afforded another opportunity to learn and grow. And it was honestly one of the hardest times for me. And it was such a huge challenge. And this was happening right before the pandemic hit. This is when everything peaked. But it was also when everything peaked, when everything started to open up, where there was the angels were singing, and I could start to see the light. I could start to see the truth of who I was. But I had to get to that vulnerable space. I had to be forced into looking deeply at my belief system and how much I had a lack belief in who I was that was driving my lack financial system. That was a big, big place. From there, I really started to acknowledge the strengths that I had. I started to acknowledge that, hey, you know what? I have got this belief system that's not working for me, and I need to look at this. And today, when I bump up against things like this, where it's like, okay, this is not feeling great, I'm willing to get incredibly vulnerable, and I am willing to look at it because I'm willing to have my own back and get on the other side of it. I'm no longer willing to allow these crazy times, these opportunities for growth to hold me back in shame. How much do we have shame associated with the spaces and places where we need to go be vulnerable? Shame is something that was created. It's a man-made thing that was created to control you. You have nothing to be ashamed of. You're someone out here who is doing the best that they can, and you're learning and you're growing. Your gift is to you first, to have your own back and to really dive into those places where it's painful and where you might feel embarrassed. Feeling embarrassed is very different than feeling shame. You know, I felt embarrassed initially with my friend, and today, oh my God, I thank her all the time because it was in that space that I grew. And if she hadn't been there, I might not be here today. It was that big of a deal. And it was such a gift. It was such a gift because I get to every day dive into and learn from myself and learn to grow. Okay, Christine, you can't make this decision when you're angry. You got to look at why you're angry before I move forward. These are the things that are going on with me again and again and again. And I'm incredibly grateful because I have given myself an opportunity of a lifetime to change all that bullshit. So we're going to go for a break. When we get back, we're going to wrap all this up. And I'm so grateful that this show has finally come. So stick around. We'll be right back after this break.
Many of us make choices based on our past experiences or based on what others believe. What would our lives be like if we made our choices based on what we desire for our futures? When you join the Inspired Choices show with business optimization expert Christine McIver, you'll be provoked to look at what is true and what you know, but may not choose, that requires your attention. Christine does not hold back. She brings all her expertise to every show. Are you ready to create and live the life you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
This is the Inspired Choices Show with business optimization expert Christine McIver. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine at InspiredChoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
Oh, wow. What a show. Oh, my God. You know what? I surprise myself sometimes with what wants to come through. You know, the real big gift that you can give yourself is your willingness to get to know you even more. Your willingness to learn about you as you move forward in your business or in your career is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Don't worry about what everybody else is thinking about you. In fact, and I know we joke about this, but it's honestly true, everybody else is thinking about themselves way more than they're thinking about you. And anyone that's out there that is talking about you or thinking about you from a space of not being kind, That's okay. Let them go. As my mom always said, they'll get there. So you just may never know about it. And it's true. I really do think that we've all come here to learn and to grow and to contribute our very, very best to the world. What would your world be like? What would your business be like if you allowed yourself to have these vulnerable spaces? If you allowed yourself to really dive into your belief system so that you could grow even stronger? Your business will be stronger because of it. Your business will have more of you, the more truth, the more pure you, as you keep diving into this again and again. You see, the essence of you, the truth of you is beautiful, and it's robust, and it's kind, and it's contributed, and it's brilliant. It's when we come here and we start to layer ourselves with all these belief systems and all of these ways that we should and shouldn't be. That's where we get buried underneath all of the heaviness of life. And when you get that squeeze, it's so that you will come out from under that. Think of a hill of leaves, right? When you're underneath there, nobody knows you're there. Nobody even sees what you look like, but you can come up out of that and you can push all of this away. And the truth, the essence, the true miracle of who you are and what you have to bring to the world can come forth then, but you've got to be willing. You've got to be willing to be vulnerable with yourself. You've got to be willing to go on public TV and talk about the places where you thought was the most shame. I don't have any shame about this anymore. That is such a gift to me. To me, I have evolved myself. I've looked at the truth of what these things mean to the space that it does not hurt me anymore. And that's a powerful person when you can no longer be hurt by what we perceive is the most judgmental things in the world. That's a powerful person that can then move forward with their life, and they can move forward in joy and happiness. When you are in that space of joy and happiness about who you are and what you are bringing to the world, that's the law of attraction point that you want to be in, because people will start to see you. People are seeking individuals that are confident, that believe in themselves, that see their value without the push energy, without the I can be like everybody else, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. No, don't go there. Don't be like anybody else. Be like you. Come through with your brilliance, even when you're a little raw around the edges, even when you're maybe a little sharp, it's okay. The truth of your passion is going to come through in those moments. And when you dive into more and more of who you are, watch what happens in your business. Watch how those opportunities start to grow even more. If you've been in business for a number of years, I'm sure you can go back and look at the times when that was what you were doing and more opportunities started to come through you. If you're in a challenging place today, don't see that you're back at it again, that you're in a difficult spot again. See this as a new opportunity to dive even deeper. This squeeze might be harder, but it might be because it's one of the last squeezes that you need. What if you started to look at it in that direction? That's what I did. And I'm not saying that I'm not going to have challenges in the future, but I know that I'm more equipped today than I ever have been to move through those challenging moments. Next week, my friends, we're going to be talking about mastering the art of visibility. I definitely teach visibility all of the time with my clients and my hosts here on the network. I would love to share that with you as well. If you are someone that is looking for a business coach who is going to be your biggest cheerleader and challenge you to step forward, I'd love for you to reach out to me. You can contact me, Christine, at inspiredchoices.ca, of course, all over social media. Please listen to the show. Please give us a review. It makes a world of difference so that the information can get out to more and more individuals. And if you're someone that has something on your heart you would like to bring forward and have your own show, do contact me as well. Until next week, my friends, I want you to remember that you can always make another choice. Take good care of you. Bye for now.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Inspired Choices Show. Christine McIver will return next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, be willing to choose what you really desire. This is your life, making the choices that bring you all that you desire.